Good evening. I'll call this meeting of the Cartersville City Council to order. If you'll please stand for our invocation and pledge.
Let's pray. Our dear gracious Heavenly Father, what a joy it is to come again tonight just to do the business of the city. And we thank you, come with grateful hearts for the place that you have placed us in this city. And we ask that you would give us wisdom and guidance as we move forward with the business at hand. And we ask these things in your holy name. Amen.
Amen. Going to the pledge. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ms. Fincher, the roll, please.
Carrie Hodge, Ward 1. Here. Jay Stepp, Ward 2.
Here.
Gary Warrock, Ward 3.
Here.
Calvin Cooley, Ward 4.
Here.
Gary Fox, Ward 5.
Here.
And Taff Wren, Ward 6.
Here. Hail, the gang's all here. Thank you, Sam. First order of business is the approval of our council meeting minutes from April 4th. And council, you've had these well in advance, had an opportunity to look them over. Now would be the time to make any edits to those minutes, and if there are none, a motion to approve would be in order.
Motion to approve.
Second. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. We are swearing in a building official tonight. Ms. Brock, why don't you get us started out with that?
Yes, Mayor and Council. With David Dye's retirement, another building official needs to be sworn in, and Charlie Waits will serve as the new City of Cartersville building official. And at this time, Samantha Fincher, our Deputy City Clerk, will swear him in. Charlie, if you want to come up.
Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that you will support the Constitution of the United States and the state of Georgia, that you in all respects will observe the provisions of the Charter and ordinances of the City of Cartersville, and that you will faithfully discharge the duties of office that you will provide? No, just this one. There.
Thank you, Charlie. I've already had the pleasure of working with you a little bit, and I appreciate what you've brought to the city already and will continue to do. So thank you and welcome. Our next order of business is SU 19-02. Mr. Menino, if you'll get us started with that.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This is a request for a special use permit at 128 Leake Street. The property is in the Old Town Historic District, approximately 2017-2018. The house was rehabbed with some major modifications. There is no garage or parking facility at this particular house. The applicant is looking to put in a 3-car garage to the rear of the property or to the rear of the house with an accessory apartment above that garage. With that necessitates a special use permit per our ordinance. With that, we had a public hearing with the Planning Commission. Planning Commission did recommend approval of this special use permit, and the applicant is present.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Menino at this point? Thank you, sir. And at this time, we'll open up a public hearing for case number SU 19-02. Anybody wishing to step forward, speak for or against may do so at this time. And seeing none, I'll close the public hearing for SU 19-02. Council will take this up for final consideration at our first meeting in May, first Thursday in May. Mr. Sanders, you've got the next item, please, sir.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. This item is a change order on the Ferry road widening project. It's for not to exceed $92,095.29. It's the environmental sub-consultant has requested this change order in order to update the environmental assessment of effects to reflect GDOT's newest template that was revised in March of 2019. And we recommend your approval.
Thank you. Before we do that, there was a meeting where we discussed the process of Ferry Road. People would know that this has been it's been a long project and trying to get everything in. And Mr. Hardigree, you actually just had a flow chart that Tommy shared with me last week, and that's we won't go through that item by item, but just so you know that it takes a while for us to work through all that stuff, Tommy, doesn't it?
Yes, and this is the first of two of them. There's another one that is after this, and we're about halfway through. If you drew a line halfway down, up and down that first sheet, that's about where we're at. And you want to show them the second one? And this is the rest of it. So as far as the plan development process, we're only about a quarter way through. And each one of those boxes, if you go to GDOT's webpage, most of those boxes have their own flow chart. Yeah, and it's a very, very complex process that I've been to the training on it about 3 or 4 times, and you got to, if you're involved in this process, you've got GDOT mandates you go through training, I think every 3 years, and it's very, very complex.
It was kind of helpful to me, and I'm glad that graphic just kind of popped up, just because, again, this is a project the city's been working on for a while, and a lot of times you lose sight of how involved it is to deal with state and federal funding. And again, it's not that the city's not doing any work, it's just that kind of work takes an awful lot of time, and it's rather arduous.
Right. And for a normal roadway project, that process, those 2 pages, takes about 6 to 7 years. Now, our project is special because of the archaeology. And our environmental project manager with GDOT has told us even state-sponsored projects that are this rich in archaeology sometimes take 15 to 20 years to go through the plan development process, because when you have the richness in archaeology, you got to go through avoidance, minimization, and mitigation process, and consult with the tribes, and it just takes a long time. The chiefs change, and the environmental project managers change, and then you got the templates change, and it's a long process.
Well, thank you. Which boils us back to this. This helps us hopefully get through one of those little boxes before we move on to the next one. And that's what this this change order is for. So, if there's no other questions or discussion, the motion's in order.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Tommy. Mr. Hampton, you got the next item, please, sir. Got the next 2, actually.
Yes, thank you, Mayor and Council. Electric Department is requesting the authorization to purchase a 750 kVA transformer. This transformer will be needed to provide service to the new Marriott Hotel going by the Conference Center. We requested bids on the state's procurement website, got 6 responses back. The lowest purchase price and total ownership cost came from Gresco for $15,702. And we are requesting your approval to purchase that replacement.
Okay, thank you. Questions, comments, or motions?
Motion to approve.
I'll second that.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Next item, please, Derek.
Thank you. Our next item is the lighting for that same project. Courtyard has elected to use our outdoor lighting service to light the parking lot areas. We did also go through the same process, got 6 bids through the state's procurement website. The only one that came in eligible was from Irby, and their total was $18,668, and the customer has already paid their contribution of $6,000 toward that lighting purchase. So we're requesting your authorization to make that purchase of $18,668 from Irby for the lighting.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion? And if not, a motion.
Motion to approve. Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Porter, you've got the next 4, sir.
Yes, Mayor. The first one is the roof replacement for the train depot. As discussed in the work session, there's a couple options on the table for the City Council. One is just a roof replacement only. That came, the low bid was from Mr. Roofer of Atlanta for $14,484. The next, there's been issues with some of the chimneys, particularly the chimney on this side of the building where it's been leaking, and the Public Works and I talked about it. Public Works, a couple of employees there. The affordable remodeling and roofing came in at a quote for $16,610 to do the roof replacement and the removal of both chimneys. So it's up to the City Council to determine the next steps. And as Mr. Menino mentioned during the work session, I will have to bring it back to HPC if you guys do elect to do the removal of the chimneys.
Okay, thank you. Discussion?
So, if we decide to, remove the chimneys, you said we have to go back to the HTC to get their approval?
But this is just approval, this is kind of a formality.
It's formality, letting them know what the city is doing, since it's in the downtown historic district.
And speaking with Lily Reed this morning, they didn't have any objections either way.
Well, and I think as we discussed in the work session as well, that Mr. Sanders and a couple of our building folks have looked at the chimneys, and it's not a matter of flashing. It's the fact that those, I think Mr. Archer said those chimneys go back to the early 1900s, and it's the porous nature of those bricks just over time that water's getting in there and leaking. So it's, you know, if those chimneys, if it's porous bricks that are deteriorating to the point where it's causing water problems inside the depot, it perhaps would be more prudent to go ahead and remove them. But we would send that to Historic Preservation Commission just because it is an informative step, just to make sure that we're following the same rules everybody else does.
And it's the understanding too that chimneys aren't being used.
That's correct, they're just for look right now.
Dan, I know that one of the, where these insurance certificate, two of them are noted as not having them.
Correct.
Would that be required before we started?
That was required as part of the bid package to submit, and they did not submit that with the bid package.
But didn't one of the lower bidders?
They, I believe, yes, there was, so if you went with, actually, neither one of them, let's see, no. Well, if you went with the base bid of just the roof replacement, yes, there was one that was the low bid, but I did ask for insurance certificates from all parties when they submitted their proposals.
Does that not disqualify them?
That does disqualify them. I just listed everybody that did submit. And
So I guess I'll make a motion that we go with the chimney removal.
Okay? Do I have a second?
I want to get a clarification on that. So that's the bid for $16,600?
$16,610, yes, sir,
Yes.
from affordable remodeling and roofing.
I'll second that.
Okay. Any other discussion? Everybody's kind of halfway thinking about it. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
Next item, Mayor, is travelers insurance deductible invoice. We had several different claims outstanding from travelers, and the deductible invoice at this time is due is $8,233.65 and is recommended for your approval.
All right. Thank you. Any questions on this item? If not, a motion's in order.
Motion to approve?
Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Next item, please.
Yes, sir. It's an NCI Main Street conduit installation. We had to bore under Main Street to serve a new customer out there. The customer had to pay the installation fee of $4,000. The NCI gave us a quote of $4,048 to get across there, but it did not include the hit rock, which they did. Added a little over $2,000 to that cost. Recommending approval of the invoice from them for $6,043. It's a $285 a month customer. So we'll be paid back in about 10 months. And we actually also been contacted by Racetrack to possibly serve them down there as well. So maybe you pay back even sooner.
Okay. Thank you. Questions, comments, or motions?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Property and Casualty Insurance Broker Services.
Yes, sir. This has been 5 years since I bid this service out and went out to bid for this. We had a review committee that evaluated proposals. And after interviewing the three top firms, we interviewed those, and the recommendation is to go with Watkins Insurance and Apex Insurance for the broker services for property and casualty insurance.
Okay. Any questions on this item? If there are none, a motion is in order.
Motion to approve. Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Dan. Mr. Reinhardt, you've got the monthly financial statement.
Honorable Mayor and Council, we will be reviewing the financial report for February 2019 and comparing it to February 2018.
In the general fund, revenues increased from last February by $1.1 million. Expenses increased by $226,000. A couple areas of revenue I look at on a monthly basis: local option sales tax have an increase there of about $272,000. Building permits and inspection fees have an increase there of about $116,000. The water and sewer fund, revenues increased over last February by $2.3 million. Expenses increased by $1.3 million. This is due to increased personnel costs, increased operating expenses, increased debt service expenses, and increased capital expenses. In the gas fund, the revenues increased over last February by $2.4 million, while the expenses increased by $6.4 million. This is due to increased personnel expenses, decreased operating expenses, increased cost of purchased gas, increased debt service, and increased capital expenses. In the electric fund, revenues increased over last year by $1.2 million. Expenses decreased by $155,000. This is due to decreased personnel costs, decreased operating expenses, increased cost of electricity, and increased capital expenses. In the stormwater fund, revenues increased over last year by $4,000. Expenses increased by $277,000. This is due to decreased personnel expenses, increased operating expenses, increased capital expenses. In the solid waste fund, revenues increased over last February by $84,000. Expenses decreased by $86,000. This is due to increased personnel expenses, increased operating expenses, and decreased capital expenses. And finally, in the fiber optics fund, revenues increased over last February by $63,000. Expenses increased by $152,000. This is due to increased personnel expenses, increased operating expenses, and increased capital expenses. That is my report for the evening.
Thank you. Any questions for Tom on this?
Just the increase in the gas fund, the capital, that's the gas headquarters,
That is the gas headquarters, yes.
which looks nice, by the way.
Absolutely. Any questions? Anything to add, Tim?
Unrestricted cash decrease for February, while restricted cash increase for the month.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, John. Is there any other business that needs to come before council this evening? Very good. Do want to remind everybody that city offices will be closed tomorrow for Good Friday. If you've got Friday garbage service, Tommy, that's going to happen on Monday. Thank you. Appreciate that. And that employee award ceremony will be next Wednesday, April 24th at 8:30 a.m. in the downtown plaza. Everybody's invited to participate in that as well. That being said, happy Easter to everybody. Happy Passover. And those celebrating that. Anything else? If not, Chair will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.